Alright, welcome to OGDL, season number 3. Oops, not what I meant to do. This season is an 8-mon Paldex format with Omniterra. I had the 4th overall pick. There were 16 coaches, kind of like a, standard sort of setup. I participated because there's still a couple mons in Pal decks I want to try. I'm kind of excited for the gen to wrap up soon, to be honest with you, but still, there's still some guys in this decks that I haven't really used to their fullest extent yet, and some archetypes I haven't tried. This time I wanted to go for more of an offensive approach. I still ended up with kind of a balanced team. Like, a lot of the offensive guys here are pretty balanced in their own right. Obviously, Corviknight, Crocodile, Rillaboom, Mesprit, Entei, those are all fat. And obviously, Raging Bolt too. But sort of grassy terrain, like offensive approach. With the Healing Wish for Bolt from Mesprit, and then like some decent pivots as well. With obviously the centerpiece being said Raging Bolt. I haven't used Terra Raging Bolt in like a full league setting before. I've pretty much only ever used it in mocks. For SGBL Team Tour, I think I used it like once or twice, and very, very cool Pokemon, very fun and flexible to use, kind of hard to build around, to draft around, especially when people are taking all the good mons. With such a limited dex. I'd love to use this thing in like a Nat Dex format, but pick number 4, first 3 picks were Torn T, Terra, Iron Valiant, and Terra Enam. It's like, this was the primary Pokemon I wanted to use. Number 2 was Terra Great Tusk, and number 3 is Darkrai. All 3 of those I'm planning to try at some point, whether in Paldea or Nat Dex, preferably Paldea, but you know how it is. But yeah, Bolt just needs some like speed to complement it. I definitely think you need Healing Wish with it, because you're gonna want to burn it early game, right? Especially if you have if it's like your main breaker. And combine that with the fact that it pivots around, and it has more sets than just the booster sets. But I'm going to be bringing Calm Mind Booster like most weeks, I think. I don't think that's very telling of my team building. It's just the best set by far. Just Booster, Special Attack, Calm Mind, Specs, Scarf are good too. I ran AB to quite effectively. I had it one time, and it was non-Terra. And it was really good on that team, but that team all around was really solid. Maybe at some point I'll do a movie for that, because that was a really fun season. But yeah, Raging Bolt's super good. Then I got Sneasler because all of the speed at the top of the decks was starting to go. Iron Treads was really close to making it to me, and I desperately was like, man, if this makes it, I think my top 2 is insane, but sadly, no. Will took it right before me, so I grabbed Sneasler because speed is good. It's a pretty good fairy killer, and it's a very good physical breaker to complement the special breaking aspect. And I paired it with a couple of other physical breakers to potentially soften things up for each other. To soften things up for the other physical mons, or to force them to bring more of a physically defensive build with just 1 check to Bolt, as opposed to a few checks to Bolt. So hoping that sort of approach works out. Although probably pairing Bolt with another good special breaker at the top would have been another approach to take, but there really weren't any fast ones left at this point. I think the main one I was looking at was Iron Moth, but in the end I decided to go with Sneasler instead, just because that 10 extra speed. Round 3, I really didn't know what I wanted. Round 3, I definitely wanted a solid steel type. Corviknight is a mon that I've hated on almost excessively, especially in Pal decks, but I feel like on this sort of build, since I really wanted to get my solid steel type out of the way early, and it was just a nice 10-point sort of threshold. It's this is a mon I don't really expect to make it back, and I want to get decent removal. As you can see, it's the only removal I got, and I didn't really get a sort of hazard stack heavy team, obviously, so I just grabbed it because of the slow momentum, It's a pretty solid blanket check to a lot of things. Just a very flexible defensive slot, and it's a good pivot to get in Bolt and Sneasler pretty often. So if I'm not going the terrain approach, which not sure how often I'm going to do that because I feel like it's pretty telegraphed. But yeah, it's a very good option for that. Round 4, the grounds were starting to go like crazy. I think by this point, let me look at the draft, right? Shreds was off the board. All the good ones were off the board. So Gliscor was off the board. I could have gotten Gliscor with my 3rd pick. And honestly, in hindsight, probably a better option. I'm having a lot of fun using Gliscor in another league, but I had it in another league. I hadn't used Corviknight in Pal decks, so it's like, I may as well see if I'm overhating it. But yeah, Tinglu was gone, Lando I was gone, Lando T was gone, Garchomp obviously was gone too. And I did not want to end up with Donphan, so I was thinking about taking Swampert here, but I decided to try something new and grab Crook, because I haven't used Crook in this format. And obviously, pairing Raging Bolt with a good knockoff user gets rid of some of those AVs, and get rid of some of those helmets that'll punish Sneasler / Rillaboom, and it pairs pretty well with the Grassy Terrain. And obviously, round 5, I wanted to at least have the Grassy Terrain element, plus Priority Spam is pretty strong for Raging Bolt. To pair with Raging Bolt, this plus Terra Entei, which I got round 6, all pretty solid forms of that. Yeah, it helps with the ground weakness a little bit too, and is just a really solid Pokemon in this format, and I felt like it was kind of underpriced at 12. But that's just me. I guess I'm a noob for that. Then we got Entei, round 6, 7 points. I got this because I haven't given Terra Entei a fair shake before. It seems pretty fun to use, pretty strong, pretty good, in the prep window. Very fat Pokemon, and defensive fire is actually kind of a good thing to have in this deck, as you'll see in my week 1 game. So, spoiler alert, this mon is solid. And then I got Mesprit. I needed another Stealth Rocker at the very least. I didn't want to lean on Crook just for that. And like I said, Healing Wish is pretty, not essential, but it's pretty much a requirement with Bolt. So, got Mesprit. And then Inteleon I just added at the end for a couple resists, an Ice Resist, a Fire Resist, and for speed. Pretty straightforward. So, it's not a really good resist to things, but the water typing helps. So, let's hop right into week 1, going up against Quinn and the Commonwealth Palafins. True to his mascot fashion, he has Palafin. Paired with Lando T, round 3 Regieleki, which I thought was crazy going into this game, and yeah, confirmed in the battle. Crazy pick. Ogerpon H, Hydreigon with Terra, Klefki, Terra Conk, Terra Espeon. So, going into this game, I knew 4 Pokemon had to come. I knew he had to bring Palafin, Ogerpon, Hydreigon, and Landorus pretty much immediately. Reason being, Landorus is like his only decent Bolt answer. That and Klefki. Klefki I actually knew was a lock as well. For that reason, I decided to run Defog this week, because I felt like it was pretty essential, because I felt like Klefki was going to be Screen, Spike, Steel Beam, and he was going to try to set up with either Palafin, Ogerpon, or Hydreigon. One of the 3 was going to try to break through everything. Palafin could be like a Banded Cleaner. Ogerpon could, relieve the spikes off of Klefki, although I think it is the worst one at getting spikes up. And then for his last slot, I actually expected Conk, because Conk is a pretty decent, AV Conk is a pretty decent answer to Raging Bolt. That way you're not fully leaning on Landorus. And Klefki, if it's not like, if it is the Steel Beam set, I kind of expected like the HO sort of approach. AV Conk at least is like a good blanket check for that. It also helps with the Inteleon, which he doesn't really have a good... My dog is scratching herself right next to me. It helps with Inteleon, which obviously into this build looks pretty good. I benched it, but I was heavily considering bringing Inteleon this week. But it ended up not coming to this game. Obviously, biggest threats are the Ogerpon and the Finn. I do have 2 pretty decent Finn answers, but it's still kind of rough to deal with. So, yes, hopping right into the actual team I brought. To start, we have a normal Bolt, max defense, helps me take Earthquakes. It helps me check Palafin pretty effectively. That way I'm not fully relying on Rillaboom. Terra Dragon is extremely good into this game. I don't expect his Klefki to stay around for very long, so that's a consideration for this set. Is just that Klefki pretty much won't be there for the whole game. So I'll be able to like push progress with Terra Dragon. He doesn't really have a good switch in besides the Klefki and the AV Conch. So if he goes Terra Fairy on Hydreigon, then that's something to consider, but then it's weaker to Sneasler, it's weaker to... it doesn't resist fire anymore, and it doesn't resist Glide, so I feel like that's not really a bring into my team. And even if he does, it doesn't take T-Bolt very well with the booster energy and the Calm Mind's up, so... I was more afraid of a DD Hydreigon too. So, yeah. Next up we have Fizdef Corviknight. This and Rillaboom are two of the best answers to Palafin in the game, like paired together, so I don't really expect, like, maybe a banded Palafin makes sense here, or a taunt set, but I didn't really expect anything else. Maybe like a utility set was reasonable too. But yeah, banded Ice Punch would be kind of hard for me to answer, so maybe I wouldn't necessarily want to trade Entei for Ogerpon H, but the whole purpose of the Corviknight is to try to check everything, basically. Just pivot around with Brave Birds, be a Dragon Resist, pivot around the Klefki, defog away spikes if I need it to, come in on the Landorus if it's a setup set, U-turn pivot, do all the good things that Corviknight does, and be fat. Scarf Sneasler's next. He didn't really have a good Sneasler switch-in aside from Landorus, which, if I can trick a Scarf onto a utility Landorus, that is a very free... Sorry, my dog's being adorable. A very free setup entrance for the Bolt, so that would be kind of nice. It also is a nice failsafe into surprise sets like Bulk Up Palafin, like Setup Hydreigon. It also outspeeds and kills +1 Ogerpon, which is a really big consideration. So felt like the set was very, very solid, since his Dire Call answers are, believe it or not, kind of dire. It also outspeeds Lecky, which is really nice. Next up we have Helmet Rillaboom, pretty physically defensive, pretty straightforward. This is going to be the main switch into the Palafin. If he catches it with an Ice Beam, it's fine. I threaten him out with Glide after, and I can Endeavor whatever comes in for some good chip. I'm mostly expecting that to be the Klefki to want to come in. Oops, sorry. And either that or the Hydreigon. Endeavor also is my best catch into the Ogerpon without running Acro, and I really wanted the helmet on there. Mostly because it would give me info on items, stuff like if it's Glove Palafin, or if it's, it lets me scout Protective Pad, see if he's Boots, if I don't manage to keep rocks up. Speaking of rocks, we have a physically defensive Mesprit. Future Sight's very hard for him to guard against once he Terras the Hydra, and Ice Beam can force him to Terra the Hydra, or he would have to fear a Gleam at that point. U-turn gives me some solid momentum. Ice Beam stops me from being set up fodder for Landorus. This is going to be my main switch into the Landorus, because Corviknight obviously doesn't really guard against it immediately. Corviknight's more like if it gets up an SD, and my citrus is already popped and I'm in range of like a crunch, then Corviknight comes in and is a good check to it. Rillaboom also helps insulate against that, so this very, very well protected against Lando. Most of his threats were physical this week, so just triple Fizdef helped quite a bit. And then finally we have Terragrass Entei. This is just in case I need to check Palafin, and this mon can actually kind of endgame, because Sacred Fire is pretty spammable again. Once he Terras the Hydreigon, his resist profile to a few types on my team kind of goes out the window. Fire is among those, and then E-Speed helps with revenge kills and stuff like Ogerpon. So, alright, so hopping into the actual game, he brought a lot of what I predicted. The one thing that I got wrong mainly was the type on the Hydra. I expected to see Fairy, but he actually brought Poison, which definitely makes a lot of sense. Helps him with Sneasler, helps him break through, helps him set up on Sneasler, rather, not break through much. Despite that, it definitely helps him defensively more so. So that is something to consider. And he left the Conch on the bench and instead brought Regieleki. For speed control, that makes a lot of sense. But excuse me, helps a lot with speed control for him for sure, and help offensively. I mean, it is really good for Corviknight. And I didn't bring my ground type, so it's obviously better by default, but I brought some decent resist to it. I have Scarf Sneasler. I can Calm Mind in front of it with Rillaboom, or not Rillaboom, Raging Bolt. Rillaboom switches in on it pretty well. Yeah, it'll probably be Spin, but then I can get up a free Future Sight. He kind of has to pivot into that, especially because he brought a weak type, a type weak to Psychic on the Hydra, and it's definitely going to need to Terra at some point, so all of those are factors to consider. Going into the game, I definitely expected a Palafin lead, but I didn't want to, since I didn't bring Healing Wish, I didn't want to pop my booster early. I'm more intending to win than to break with the Raging Bolt. If I do end up breaking with the Raging Bolt, that's one thing, but I don't want to burn my booster early if I don't have to, so I am going to elect to lead with, from memory, Mesprit. So, yeah, that's right. And he's going to lead with the Fin. The sooner I can get up my rocks, maybe force that Lecky out to spin, take some Helmet Chip, and give me some good progress, the better. Hindsight, maybe Leech Seed was a better bring than Endeavor, but Ogerpon coming in was the main reason I didn't run that. But it would help me with the Rillaboom definitely in this game for the most part, besides the Ogerpon. So he switches, he brings in his Ogerpon, which I thought was kind of crazy. Definitely immediately starting off with some potentially nuts plays, because definitely in that spot, Thunder Wave is definitely a valid click from my end. I actually more so expected the Lecky to come in, like I said, so I could get the spin off, force him to get the spin off, U-turn, bring in the Rillaboom, and then make some progress from there. But yeah, Ogerpon comes in, so immediately I'm going to try to Future Sight. I'm fine with taking Chip on this because this is obviously the main answer to it. And of course he brought this in obviously expecting me to click Stealth Rock because he clicks Encore, and shows that here. So that is that's obviously the reason he brought it in, but I was just trying to get up a Future Sight, just to have it in the air. Yeah, very good play on his part. Definitely caught me off guard to where I have to force, and pretty much forced to go Entei. With that said, I am out of range of a Stomping Tantrum, so Sacred Fire into E-Speed is going to guarantee put this in Rock's range as long as I connect, which I do. I was surprised he didn't switch, fearing the Stone Edge. That being said, he doesn't really have a good answer besides Landorus. And if I can force a burn on Landorus, that would be really nice. Oh, I had Wisp on this, obviously, to catch the Palafin. I forgot to mention that, I think, in the builder. But yeah, I bring the Ogerpon very low, which is obviously really good for me defensively. It takes up a lot of pressure. It takes a lot of pressure off Corviknight and Rillaboom, so that is a trade I'm perfectly happy making, as Sneasler's going to come in and revenge this with close combat. So, Regieleki comes out, and if he's not bulky, I do kill with close combat, like, usually. But this coming in, he doesn't know my set, but now I understand. Now I know that he's Boots. Seeing Boots makes me think he's more of a support, a fat Lecky. And he is, if I close combat and I die to a Thunderbolt, that's a really bad trade for me. So I'm just going to elect to go Rillaboom here. I expect maybe a spin to come off. So CC was more free if that happened. Because obviously he would pretty much be dead. Even if he was max HP, like, it's a roll to kill. But he's going to Volt. So if I did CC and it didn't die, then I was dead. So definitely the right call there. Hydra's going to come in, and I'm just going to U-turn to see if he Terras. If I trade HP on this, that's fine. I still have Corviknight and Mesprit at full HP to help with the Palafin and the Landorus. I am okay with trading HP or potentially Rillaboom's life for information on the Hydreigon. Seeing that it's leftovers makes me think that it's Dragon Dance. That was more so what I expected to see going into the game. However, he reveals plot and throws me for a complete loop. Obviously, this is a fucking really big threat. Very, very dangerous. Might kill like 2 or 3 Pokemon, so immediately I have to go Sneasler, and I have to trick this. Just off rip. That's non-negotiable. So I lose my revenge kill, my main speed control into the game. So I'm going to be relying on priority for speed mostly here, which kind of sucks. And then I do kind of make a mistake. I should have probably been roosting and pressure stalling the Dragon Pulses. That being said, I didn't want to burn through all of my roosts immediately, and I should have probably calced better, because Dragon Pulse, after Brave Bird Recoil, is a roll to kill me. It's something that it's just something I have to take. If I roost, If he switches out like he did, then I get the Corviknight back at full and I'm in a really good position. But I have to follow up with a Thunderclap from Raging Bolt, which puts me in a really bad spot, like a very uncomfortable position if he just takes the kill on my Corviknight. But because it's a roll, he is not comfortable taking that. It would pretty much mean that his Hydra's dead, or the Corviknight obviously just roosts the damage off. And I think obviously the main way he's going to break my Bolt is either a Banded Ice Punch, Earthquake from Lando pre-Terra, if he can somehow position that, or Hydreigon. So the switch to Lecky is pretty reasonable in that position, although he could have potentially taken my Corviknight if I Brave Birded. So I think for him, obviously looking at how the game plays out, that would have been better for him, but I see why he made the play he did. I'm going to go Rillaboom just to force some chip on this with Helmet, because I know the spin's coming off, and I'm going to, I believe, glide here, right? No, I U-turn, that was smart. And now Raging Bolt's going to come in, because I expect like spikes and stuff to start going up, and I want to start pushing some damage. Maybe force that Lando out, because forcing Lando out is going to make life a lot easier for Raging Bolt later in the game. So, yeah. Calm Mind up. As he sets Misty Terrain up, I think that's to stop my Bolt from healing off whatever he's going to go for, but then he goes hard Landorus. So I was pretty confused by the Misty Terrain there. I was pretty sure that screens were going to go up, but I wanted to force damage on the Klefki anyway, just to see more of its set. But now that the Lando's in, I'm just going to go straight for the Dragon Pulse, and I'm just going to take the kill on this. If that means trading an Earthquake, so be it. I'm going to be mostly clicking Thunderclap like throughout the game, and it keeps me, and I'm not in range of a Lecky there. And I still have 2 switch-ins to Ice Punch, so I was perfectly okay with that if need be. But he actually just goes for Rocks, thinking he forces me out into the Corviknight, that he'd be able to like knock and make progress from there. But no, I'm just going to take the kill. And thankfully the Lando goes down, so that's like his immediate method of getting chip on the Raging Bolt gone. So Palafins in. He's either encoring or he's choice banded ice punching. I think either way Thunderclap is a fine play, because if he encores, then I know he's more of a support Finn, or he's just going to be like a bulk upset. If he ice punches, then I get the kill. But he is going to obviously not go for ice punch and click encore. Very smart, very good, solid bring. So I have to go Rillaboom here. I elect to go Rillaboom because it's less useful into Hydreigon. Hydreigon to me right now is the biggest threat now that I've seen Encore on Palafin. If it is bulk up, then I can potentially 1v1 it with the Rillaboom, glide it down, Endeavor it once I take an Ice Punch, force Helmet Chip, keep it low. He shows to be Punching Glove or Protective Pads here. I'm kind of thinking Punching Glove, but it was kind of hard to tell from the damage calc. I think it tells me that he was like kind of invested with Glove though. Is one of the potential scenarios, and I don't really see why he would be Protective Pads unless he has Flip Turn, but he shows here to have Protect, so I'm fine with that. It just gives me Grassy Terrain Recovery. He's going to go Klefki. I'm going to just Glide again, because if he chooses to stay in and trade HP, that's very favorable for me, obviously, in the end game. It makes Raging Bolt a lot better once the Encore Mon goes down, so Klefki's going to come in. I'm just going to, I believe, U-turn here. As Light Screen goes up, I think he predicted Raging Bolt to come in. I'm just going to take this as an opportunity to get up rocks. I plan on Brick Breaking before I plan on Defogging, unless I'm forced to. And I would rather have damage on the Hydreigon and the Palafin, so I think all is good for me there, as long as I can get my rocks up. He's going to go Finn. I'm going to go Rock up. Here I believe I U-turn, right? No, I go hard Rillaboom expecting an Encore, that's right. So he positions the spinner in. I think he went Palafin to force me out so that he could spin, which was like pretty solid. That's pretty good positioning. He gets the Regieleki in, but as a consequence, I'm going to take some glide damage on this because I know he has to spin here. And here, in hindsight, I think Brick Breaking was a better play, because obviously it's it forces I think it doesn't kill the Lecky from there, but it keeps it really low. And Klefki was like more obvious than him just staying in, but also keeping that hidden is also pretty nice. So he shows Light Screen, he shows Misty Terrain, he's obviously Reflect. I'm gonna Brick Break expecting the Reflect to come out, and I see that it does 23, which I think indicates that he's more specially defensive to help check Raging Bolt, which in my mind, since I mean, since at this point he kept the Klefki in the back for so long, I'm thinking that it's more, it's got a fairy move. It doesn't have Steel Beam. It's going to want to be alive. And that is confirmed, I believe, on this turn that he has Draining Kiss, yes. So I'm going to defog now because the rocks are gone. Feel like there's no reason for me to play with rocks on my side of the field. Okay, I don't do that yet. I'm going to do that eventually. So I go Rillaboom. I'm going to get the healing from the terrain. I'm going to U-turn here as he's going to Draining Kiss again, and I'm going to keep going Corviknight to just try and chip down try and chip away at his PP on his own on what I expect to be his only attacking move. And now I believe here I Roost or I Defog first. Defog first. If he went Hydreigon there, that was a good play. If he went Lecky there, that was a good play, but I wanted to make sure that I got these rocks off my side of the field. And I would rather have Corviknight be low than deal with rocks up right now. So he's going to Reflect, I'm going to Roost, and here we're going to just get into like a positioning battle where he's going to try to get up screens. I'm going to be defogging. Eventually, yeah, Draining Kiss, I believe I defog or I U-turn. So I do U-turn, so this exchange is going to happen multiple times between the two Mons, where I'm going to be defogging as he tries to screen up, and I'm going to try to make it so he can only have one screen up in the exchange, so I'm going to probably fast forward through those parts, but here, Draining Kiss goes off, and then I U-turn. I'm not exactly sure why he Draining Kissed, but now that I have him down to 6, that's pretty good for Raging Bolt. Once I get all of those Draining Kisses gone, Raging Bolt just Calm Minds in front of this Pokemon forever. I'm going to go Mesprit. Excuse me, sorry. Fucking hell. I'm going to go Mesprit, and I'm going to see this as an opportunity to Future Sight, because I think that is much more beneficial. I could potentially force a kill, than Rocks just being up. Hydreigon's going to come in, and I take a Dark Pulse from this thing. Even if it's modest, I live pretty much always, and I could potentially get Rocks up here, pop my Citrus, whatever. My health comes back, I'm out of Jet Punch range, and I get up another Future Sight later. Sadly, he is going to crit me, but that means that I'm pretty much guaranteed a kill here, because nothing comes in on Raging Bolt, T-Bolt into Future Sight. As you're going to see, I T-Bolt, I crit back, it didn't matter. The Thunderbolt was putting him in range of Future Sight, even if he was like Spadef. So Klefki's going to come in. I'm going to try to burn another Draining Kiss by going Corv, but he doubles into Lecky, which was really smart. This forces me back out into one of my guys. I choose to go Bolt, because health is a little less important on Bolt here than positioning with Rillaboom would be. Lecky's going to come back in. I think he predicted me to go Corv there. And here I'm just going to try to make some progress. I don't Thunderclap because I expect this to have a support move of some kind. Maybe a screen is about to go up. I figured Thunderclap is just way too obvious. He actually reveals T-Wave, which is very good prep on his part, and could potentially play a pivotal role in the endgame with the Hydreigon trying to push progress on me. So here he goes into Klefki. I should have maybe just stayed in and calm-minded again, but I didn't. I forget why I didn't. I guess I just didn't want the Klefki like healing all the way up, and me risking Paras, because the main way I lose is Draining Kiss crit, putting me in Dark Pulse range, and then a Dark Pulse endgame, which would flinch down my Corviknight. That would be kind of a really tragic way to lose, so I figured Rillaboom is not very important. I can just, now that the Lecky's gone, I can kind of play a little recklessly with this. And I believe here I U-turn and bring in Corviknight. I bring in Raging Bolt to try and force progress. I think now I'm trying to draw out the Draining Kisses because I go Corviknight now. And here comes the positioning game. So I do force the Draining Kisses, and then it's just going to be some defogging on screens here. Brave Bird for some chip. Defog again on screens, and I think now he reflects and I U-turn and bring Rillaboom in. And from here, this was a mistake for sure. Coming up, Brick Break was right. It forces chip on Klefki, keeps the screen down, makes it so that my my Corviknight can, Brave Bird down the Klefki a lot easier, whatever. Klefki's not really an issue at this point. It's down to, like, at most 3 Draining Kisses, so here I should have stayed in with Rillaboom and Grassy Glided, because there was really no reason for me to risk Corviknight here. With the health I'm at, I'm chipped in range of a potential Dark Pulse to a KO, and now I'm just in a position where I'm just giving up chip for no reason. I have to go back to Rillaboom here. I'm kind of bailed by the fact that he goes Klefki in this position. I think he just wanted to potentially get up screens again, so he could get Hydreigon in, or he didn't want to risk the roll on Dark Pulse. I think there he really should have just tried to risk it, because that's the only way he wins, is to capitalize on a choke like that. But now that the Klefki's in, I am perfectly fine with with him burning a Draining Kiss, since he didn't go Hydreigon like I thought he would. If he did go Hydra, I was forced to go Bolt there, but now Draining Kiss, and now that I'm roosted, I'm not worried about the Hydreigon anymore. Gonna defog away the screens, and now that he's out of Draining Kisses, Rillaboom, or not Rillaboom, Raging Bolt just comes in. And I'm gonna try to speed up the process a little bit by U-turning and Thunderclapping, and now that that's done, I do just straight up win with the Raging Bolt. So that could have gotten messy. The Hydreigon definitely was the biggest threat throughout the game, even after it got tricked. It was just about positioning around that potential threat. So very, very close game. Made a lot easier by the Raging Bolt being just such a good Pokemon in this matchup. Like, I felt like I had just a really solid Bolt game here with the Terra Dragon. So next week I play Grass Guard, and he has a very scary little guy that is known as. Gonna actually double check my matchup just real quick. Meowscarada, that's the Pokemon. Meowscarada. That thing is annoying as hell. So see you all in that game. Later.